Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 531, The Fog That Follows, Part 2, Intermediate. The village of Greyhaven stood silent under a grey, oppressive sky, its once bustling streets now deserted, except for the occasional mournful cry of a gull circling overhead. Weeks had passed since Ella vanished into the fog, swallowed by the night and the mysterious force that had claimed her. The remaining villagers, a mere handful, lived in constant dread. Old Mr. Harrow, the stubborn shopkeeper who refused to abandon his post, and Mara, a quiet girl who had once worked alongside Ella mending nets, were among the last. The fog had become a nightly ritual, rolling in with a vengeance, its thick tendrils clawing at the wooden houses like a predator seeking prey. The sour, damp smell it left behind clung to everything, a constant reminder of the terror that had gripped their lives. Mara couldn't erase the sound of Ella's final scream from her mind, a piercing wail that had echoed from the cliffs on that fateful night. It haunted her dreams, pulling at her with a mix of guilt and determination. She felt a deep need to uncover the truth about what had taken her friend and the others who had vanished before her. One evening, as the fog began its inevitable descent, Mara decided to act. She armed herself with a small knife tucked into her belt and a lantern to light her way, mirroring Ella's last brave stand. The whispers started the moment she stepped outside, soft at first, then growing into a chilling chorus. "Mara! Mara!" they called, their tone both seductive and menacing, as if daring her to come closer. With her lantern held high, Mara ventured toward the cliffs where Ella had disappeared. The fog parted slightly, revealing ghostly shapes, shadows of the missing villagers, their faces hollow, their mouths moving in silent pleas. Tom, the fisherman, stood among them, his eyes now empty sockets. Mara's heart raced, a mix of fear and sorrow tightening her chest, but she pressed forward, driven by a resolve she didn't fully understand. The shape from Ella's last night emerged from the mist, taller and more defined than before. Its coal-like eyes burned with an unnatural light, and it glided toward her with an eerie grace. Its voice invaded her mind, deep and commanding. "You cannot escape us," it growled. "Join us in the fog." Mara stumbled, her lantern swaying dangerously. She swung her knife in desperation, but the blade sliced through the shape as if it were nothing more than a vapor. The fog tightened around her legs, cold and heavy, the whispers escalating into a cacophony of streams that threatened to overwhelm her. She fell to her knees, the icy dampness seeping into her bones, her strength fading. Just as despair took hold, a faint voice cut through the chaos. Ella's voice, clear and urgent. "Fight it, Mara!" The memory jolted her back to her senses. With a surge of adrenaline, she smashed her lantern on the ground. The flame caught the oil, igniting a small patch of the fog. The shape shrieked, a sound that rattled the cliffs, and the fog recoiled as if burned, thinning for a moment. Gasping for air, Mara scrambled to her feet and ran back to the village, the fog retreating like a wounded beast. She burst into Mr. Harrow's shop, where he waited with wide, fearful eyes, his hands trembling as he clutched a broom. "It's alive," she panted, her voice hoarse. "We have to burn it out." Mr. Harrow nodded, his fear giving way to grim determination. Together they gathered every drop of oil from his shop, along with old rags and wooden planks, crafting makeshift torches. They spent the day preparing, their hands busy but their minds racing with the hope of ending the nightmare. When the fog returned that night, thicker and darker than ever, Mara and Mr. Harrow stood at the village's edge, torches blazing. The shape emerged again, its eyes glowing with fury. This time they were ready. They thrust their torches into the fog, the flames licking at its edges. The fog hissed and shrank, the whispers turning to desperate wails. The shape dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind only a faint, bitter odour. As the vast tendrils of fog lifted, the sky cleared, revealing a rare glimpse of stars above Greyhaven. The survivors, now just Mara and Mr. Harrow, began the slow process of rebuilding. They repaired the damaged houses, cleared the streets, and planted new gardens, their hands working to erase the scars of the past. The fog never returned, but its memory lingered in the air, a silent warning. Mara often stood by the cliffs at dusk, watching the sea's gentle waves, wondering if Ella's spirit had guided her that night. She spoke to the wind sometimes, thanking her friend for the strength to fight. The village lived on, scarred but resilient, its story of survival passed down to future generations. And though the whispers were gone, Mara occasionally felt a faint echo in the breeze, a reminder of the battle they had won, a battle that had cost so much but given them back their freedom. Vocabulary notes: oppressive, adjective. Definition: weighing heavily on the mind or body, causing discomfort or difficulty due to its intensity. Example: the village of Greyhaven stood silent under a grey, oppressive sky. Sample sentence: the oppressive heat made it hard to concentrate during the afternoon. Similar words: suffocating, feeling like it's hard to breathe or move, often due to heat or pressure. E.g., the suffocating humidity forced everyone indoors. Overwhelming, so intense that it's hard to handle. E.g., the overwhelming silence of the forest was eerie. Burdening, causing a heavy load or stress. E.g., the burdening responsibility weighed on her shoulders. Tendril, noun. Definition: a thin curling part of a plant that helps it climb, or something that looks similar, like a thin winding shape. Example: the fog had become a nightly ritual, rolling in with a vengeance, its thick tendrils clawing at the wooden houses. Sample sentence: the ivy's tendrils wrapped tightly around the old stone wall. Similar words: wisp, a small, thin, delicate strand, often of smoke or fog, e.g., a wisp of fog drifted across the field. Strand, a single thin piece of something, like hair or thread, e.g., a strand of seaweed clung to the rock. Thread, a very thin line or piece, often figurative, e.g., a thread of hope kept her going. Recoil, verb. Definition: to suddenly move back or flinch, often due to fear, shock, or pain. Example: the shape recoiled, shrieking, and the fog thinned for a brief moment. Sample sentence: she recoiled in horror when she saw the spider on her arm. Similar words: flinch, to make a small involuntary movement due to fear or pain, e.g., he flinched at the loud bang. Shrink, to draw back or become smaller, often from fear, e.g., the dog shrank back from the stranger. Jerk, a sudden, sharp movement, often reflexive, e.g., he jerked his hand away from the hot stove. Cacophony, noun. Definition: a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds, often loud and confusing. Example: the whispers escalating into a cacophony of screams that threatened to overwhelm her. Sample sentence: the cacophony of car horns filled the busy city street. Similar words: noise, any unwanted or loud sound, e.g., the noise from the construction site was unbearable. Racket, a loud, unpleasant noise, often chaotic, e.g., the children's racket woke the whole neighbourhood. Din, a loud, continuous sound, often confusing, e.g., the din of the market made it hard to think. Grim, adjective. Definition: depressing, stern, or harsh, often related to serious or unpleasant situations. Example: Mr. Harrow nodded, his fear giving way to grim determination. Sample sentence. He wore a grim expression after hearing the bad news. Similar words. Stern. Serious and strict, often showing little emotion, e.g., the teacher gave a stern warning to the class. Dismal, gloomy or depressing, e.g., the dismal weather matched her mood. Forbidding, unfriendly or intimidating, e.g., the forbidding cliffs loomed over the village. Dissolve, verb. Definition, to break apart or disappear into something else, often gradually. Example, the shape dissolved into nothingness, leaving behind only a faint bitter odour. Sample sentence, the sugar dissolved quickly in the warm tea. Similar words, fade, to gradually disappear or become less noticeable, e.g., the music faded as the car drove away. Melt, to turn into liquid or disappear softly, e.g., the ice melted under the sun's heat. Vanish, to suddenly disappear completely, e.g., the magician made the rabbit vanish. Resilient, adjective. Definition, able to recover quickly from difficult conditions, strong and adaptable. Example, the village lived on, scarred but resilient, its story of survival passed down to future generations. Sample sentence, despite the challenges, she remained resilient and kept working hard. Similar words, tough, strong and able to endure hardship, e.g., he was tough enough to finish the race. Flexible, able to adapt or bend without breaking, e.g., her flexible approach helped her solve the problem. Sturdy, physically strong and reliable, e.g., the sturdy bridge withstood the storm. Story written by Grok 3 AI. Image created by Grok 3 AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.